Arthur, welcome to ABC News 24.
Thanks, Lyndal. Good to be with you again.
Congratulations on your appointment.
Thanks.
Did Tony Abbott do the right thing in accepting Senator Bernardi's resignation?
Look, these were circumstances where Cory had said certain things which did show, I think, a lack of discipline and maybe a bit of a tin ear when it comes to the community as well. And in those circumstances, felt compelled to offer his resignation. Tony accepted it. I accepted the position. You always accept positions when they're offered by the leader. My heart goes out to Cory, but this is in the nature of the game we're in. Words are bullets, and we all have that responsibility. You
say perhaps a tin ear on behalf of Senator Bernardi. You don't think that his views have any currency in the community?
Look, I'm not sure about that, except to say that we were debating a particular bill, and while we have free speech, we've always got to be careful about the implications of our remarks, and I think to some extent that was seeking to take something to a conclusion that I don't think was appropriate, given that we also, during this debate, have to show respect to all of the participants in it. And I certainly want to show respect to those people who either are for or against gay marriage, because at the end of the day, the tone which we said as a parliament is also very important.
So while the parliament is a place where people can put their views and often passionate views, particularly on this subject, even if you think something, you shouldn't necessarily say it out loud. You shouldn't necessarily give your weight as a senator, as a member of the Liberal Party, to those views.
I think you've got to take into account the impact it might have on some of the people hearing it. Because you've always, as a legislator, as a leader of the community, you've got to be aware that sometimes the way you say things may be taken in a different way to the way you expect, and you've often got to put yourself in the shoes of the other person. And there may have been people on the other side of this debate who thought that they were being associated with views that they did not support.
And you've accepted this position, as you said, when it's offered, you don't say no. What do you see your role as being as parliamentary secretary to the opposition leader? Is it offering him wise counsel?
Part of it is that, offering him wise counsel, but all members of the front bench are in the job of offering the leader wise counsel, representing him on occasions. I think being a bit of a lightning rod perhaps for some on the back bench who have concerns and issues that they want to raise, not to get in the way of them being able to speak to the leader, but to have someone who is readily accessible, and I have an open door policy, to talk to people about issues that they've got, and basically try and make sure that we get early warning of things where there's a problem within the coalition, and how do we work constructively on having a team approach to those problems.
We're about a year out from the next election, all things being equal, in this minority parliament. There was a question put to Tony Abbott in his press conference that there seems to have been some fraying at the edges recently. Because we're a year out from an election, are there some people seeking to kind of push their views forward, push coalition policy in the direction they want to go? I'm thinking particularly on things like foreign investment, where some in the National Party have been quite vocal about it.
Look, for a long time we've had a pretty good poll lead, and as the polls tighten, as they always will, because every action leads to an equal and opposite reaction, you then have to respond accordingly, and that means that you have to be disciplined, you have to stay focused on your main messages. That doesn't mean that Tony has got to either go away from the messages he's had to date, but he does have to keep rolling out the coalition alternative. He's still in the polls the default Prime Minister. At the end of the day, the polls are looking at a change of government, and so his role is to keep rolling out alternative policies as well as keeping the government accountable by focusing on the things that they've done wrong. It's a dual challenge. It's always a difficult challenge, but I think he's on the right track with the approach he's taking to the job.
And a challenge too, because he's had quite a consistent and disciplined message, particularly on the carbon tax, since he's been leader, but a year out from election. Do you have to look as leader, altering that, broadening it, doing what some people say as being more positive, putting forward the agenda that you would have if you came to government?
Look, while keeping the government accountable, it is important for the opposition to keep rolling out its own alternative. And the fact of the matter is that the government is changing the landscape around us as we speak. There's a lot of big budget promises now out there. They're scrambling to find money. I'm worried about the quality of the cuts that they may enact in order to pay for some of this. We've got a mid-year economic and fiscal outlook coming. I'm just a bit concerned about how they try and fudge that. So there's plenty of us to deal with, and we have to deal with that changing landscape while keeping the government honest on issues like the broken promises around the carbon tax and the other factors that impact on the cost of living.
And of course, the budgetary problem that the government may had is one that you would likely face if you came to government next time. The Treasury Secretary, Martin Parkinson, has talked about government revenue being about $20 billion down from where it was before the global financial crisis. So there will be budgetary restraints on both sides when you're making promises at the next election, won't there?
Absolutely, Lyndal, and 10 days into the campaign we'll have the pre-election economic and fiscal outlook, which will be the views of the Secretary of the Treasury and the Department of Finance around the fiscal challenge. What worries me at the moment is we seem to be adding as a country to that fiscal challenge in a very big way, and I'm also worried that with the ageing of the population we need to be looking at how we save more to cope with the fact that we're going to have less people in the workforce. We're going to have to be even more productive than we thought before in order to make up for that, and so all the old issues come back: higher productivity, more labour force participation, and increasing the population in order to have a bigger workforce as well.
Lots of challenges. Arthur Sinodinos, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Lyndal.